They once asked the couple who was married for 65 years, "What's the secret to your relationship?" The husband responded with, "We didn't fall out of love with each other at the same time." People are having a hard time finding permanent, lasting relationships because casual sexual relationships have just become the norm, with social media promising that the grass is greener on the other side and that online dating have just created very shallow interactions. We all know what a relationship should look like, with respect and trust and empathy, but how do you apply that every day? Here are tips for that. Don't disengage. When you ask people what the ultimate betrayal is, you might get answers like lying about financial status, cheating, or watching pornography. But before this happens, there's something that happens that is far worse, which is disengagement. Disengagement is worse because you can't point it out directly. It hides behind other things in arguments. Like, for example, if you're fighting about who's going to pack out the dishwasher. Maybe you're not really fighting about that, but you're actually fighting about the fact that you don't feel supported or you feel like you guys need to spend more time together. John Gottman explains it as there are these sliding door moments where we get to decide if we're going to build connection with our partner or if we're going to pull away from our partner. An example of this is asking your husband about his day when you see him staring into space, worried after a long day at work, when you actually really just want to go sit in front of Netflix and watch that series that you've been putting off. These moments build trust, and one such moment is not detrimental to the relationship, but continual turning away from your partner will erode the relationship. But then betrayal is not as simple as distrust. It's far worse. It is during those moments that you do turn away, also thinking, I could do better. Once you start thinking that you can do better, it is a whole cascade of not committing in the relationship. So be aware of opportunities for engagement and watch your thoughts during those sliding door moments. This one is so important. You are a team. Stop criticizing each other because ultimately you need to help each other to win at the game of life. Something that a lot of couples struggle with is seeing each other as equals. It's probably the hardest thing in modern day relationships where we are taught that our opinions mean so much. So build each other up and remember that you need to have each other's backs. You can strategize in private by giving each other feedback and constructive criticism to realize where you can improve. But this needs to happen at the right time. Play to each other's strengths and realize that you both bring something to the party. And real love also means that we act lovingly despite the fact that we might not feel loving. So this means that you might have to carry your partner every now and then. The next one is be like me. We all think that our way of doing things is the best way, but that's not necessarily true. In many early relationships, couples try and mold each other to be similar instead of unique. Acceptance and separateness is an important foundation upon which love grows. Every couple can learn from each other, so the sooner we realize that there is power in differences, the better. Focus on the things that your partner adds to the relationship instead of focusing on all the ways that you would change them or make them more like you. I'm sure we all have something we struggle with, so sort out yourself before pointing out all the flaws in your partner. Jordan Peterson puts this very well by saying, put your house in perfect order before going out and criticizing the world. Happy compromise. If your partner is always late for a date or an appointment and you end up fighting about this, it might be time to reevaluate the fact that maybe you like being on time, but he doesn't necessarily value that, and you shouldn't take this personally. It might be time on your end to compromise for this, to realize that they're generally going to be late, so let me account for this. And on their end, it might be time to manage your expectations better, to not make empty promises to be on time every time. Dr. Phil has a really good quote here where he says, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? There is, however, one important side note. You have to really love yourself to be clear on which values and boundaries you are not going to compromise on. Don't take things so personally. No two humans are the same, and what a boring world it would be if we were. If you expect anyone to make you happy, you will be endlessly disappointed. Get up, speak up, start the conversation so that you can be a happier person in general. Authenticity no matter what. Everyone is deeply self-conscious and uncertain, and a lot of the times we act out this persona of perfection. Somehow vulnerability is courage in you, but it's weakness in me. Obviously we need to have a functional shell to interact with people day to day, because when someone asks you how are you, you can't just spill out your whole life story there. That is just too much intimacy too quickly. But the problem arises when the functional shell is all there is. If you are not truthful, which means coming to terms with your inadequacies, you will not live a meaningful life. you'll end up just playing this role. Brené Brown talks about sharing your truth with the people who have earned the right to hear your story, and also who can bear the weight of that story. This means opening up to people who you trust. But what is trust? Trust is not one grand gesture, but it is multiple small acts that speak to who you are and what you value. This could mean your partner asking about your family, making sure to include you in fun things, knowing when you are sad and actually asking you why. Don't discount your feelings. Women do this a lot. They would say something that they feel, and then they would say, oh, maybe I'm just being over emotional, I'm on my period, or I'm just being silly. But I've been taught a lot of times, if you have been thinking about something for that long to actually voice it, it must mean something to you. Even if you talk about it and you realize that you are overreacting, at least you and your partner got closer in the process of just opening up. Of course, not all of your feelings are valid, but we live in a society where people are so scared to risk rejection and vulnerability that they don't even try opening up. And when they do, they just wipe it away by saying, I'm probably just being silly, when things start getting a little bit uncomfortable. So don't say nothing is wrong and expect your partner to magically figure out what's going on, first of all. And secondly, once you speak up, don't just wipe it away by ignoring why you felt that way and just laughing it off. And thirdly, take it serious so that you actually talk this through and you get to a point where it doesn't come up again and you don't fester resentment. The last one is playing more. Here's an example. Maybe ask your partner, what 3 characteristics do you really value in a partner? For me, that is integrity, discipline, and spontaneity. Then what you could do is you flip those around, because that doesn't really tell you what they want necessarily, but it tells you more about who they really are. This is an easy exercise to get to know your partner a bit better, and maybe yourself as well, because you actually put pen to paper and decide what is important to you. Try it out as a fun exercise together. Also, be sure to prioritize at least once a week for 90 minutes that you guys go out together and you talk about life and its practicalities. Try and make the dates a bit more playful, like going rock climbing or painting, instead of just the generic sitting down having a dinner date. Thanks for watching. Consider watching this one next, and I'll see you in the comment section.